Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 263 of the Co-op Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Bailey Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
It's going good, thanks. And I'm back on camera, as everyone can see. I've been hearing some criticisms from certain people who like to throw shade out there. So, I got myself back on camera now. I might even upgrade my camera because this is like an old camera that I'm using. But yeah, I'm back on camera now. People can't complain no more. So yeah, how you doing, Rich?
I'm doing good and glad to have you back on camera. Also, the people that complaining, I heard they're working on a show called We're Working on the Logo. So I don't think they are in any position to complain until they actually drop their show. Shots fired.
Yeah, they've been working on a logo for like 5 months or something now. So
that's right.
I can't wait to see this show that they're creating.
Hopefully, it'll be back in time. It'll be out by the time Cyberpunk 2077 releases. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah. Glad to have you on, Gary. Just to give everybody a heads up, today's show, once again, it's going to be just me and Gary. Everybody has a lot of other things going on. It's a very busy review season that we are pretty much coming up on, so we're going to be very, very busy. I know I have a couple of reviews that I'm working on. Two that I can't really talk about, but I am going to say a few things today. But there's a lot of things going on, so stay tuned because we'll have a lot of content. And in the future, others will make a return to the show, obviously. So next week, we'll definitely have some more people back on here on this panel next week. But in regards to the news, there was a lot of things that happened this week. A lot of news stories. Obviously, it's PAX West going on right now in Seattle. Wish that I was at PAX West, but unfortunately, money is tight and times are pretty busy right now for me. So I couldn't make it there, but definitely a lot of things to talk about regarding some news that happened prior to the show happening. So before we dive into that, we're going to let you all know what we have been playing. So, Gary, I'm going to go to you first. Let us know what you've been playing.
Yep. So I've been playing that game up there with the characters from there. Overwatch. Overwatch, of course. Yeah. So I mean, not much new to report with Overwatch. I think they did add a new Diva challenge to where you have to actually they put out a new Diva skin. And you have to actually earn it, so you can't just buy it with in-game currency or by buying loot boxes. You have to actually win 9 matches to earn that skin. And I thought that was pretty cool because a lot of people have been wanting that kind of model where you have to actually put in work in the game itself to unlock the skins instead of doing the loot box gambling or whatever the case is. So that was cool. The most recent season of competitive ended, and there's a new season starting in a few hours. Actually, I think two to 3 hours. The next season starts, so I'll be grinding and competitive again, hoping to get platinum rank again, and maybe even moving up to diamond rank. And that's sort of the start of where the esports hype begins, where people get recognized, especially if you're streaming. If you're streaming and you're diamond or grandmaster or master level, then you probably have a lot of viewers and you're probably getting scouted for teams and stuff like that. Now, I'm not that ambitious with Overwatch. I don't actually, want to be recruited for a team or anything like that. But, I just like the grind itself of trying to rank up in the game and stuff. So it's really fun. It can be very torturous at times, but yeah, it's still fun. I love it, and I have my little team as well, so yeah, it's cool. Besides Overwatch, I've been playing World of Warcraft, just leveling up my character. Finally got to level 20, and I can actually get myself a mount now. A mount is what you use to get around faster, so you can see it as a vehicle or something, but it's not always a vehicle. Sometimes it's just a creature that you get on the back of, like a horse or some sort of mystical creature, so yeah, I'm just trying to get rank up in World of Warcraft so I can get to all the new content and stuff. I haven't actually got with a guild yet, but I did get invited. I declined because you can only be with one guild, so I want to make the right decision when I'm ready. Um, and yeah, besides that, I haven't really had much time to. I wanted to dive back into Shenmue because I really want to get to the second game, but I just haven't had that much time. Overwatch and WoW is just easy because you can just hop on, play as much as you can, and then hop off. And whereas with Shenmue, you have to kind of dedicate more attention and more time to it and stuff, because it's like a story and everything. So I've just been, waiting. I'm waiting for Dragon Quest and I'm waiting for Spider-Man to come out, and those games come out next week. So I'll probably be playing maybe a bit less Overwatch and a bit less WoW, just so I can play those games because those are some pretty high-profile games. I have to say I'm mostly looking forward to Dragon Quest though, but Spider-Man looks like it will be cool too. So we'll see how that is. But that's pretty much it from me this week.
Sounds good. Yes, and I'll give a shout out to Tatiana because I know she was going off on you for playing World of Warcraft. But hey, you got to switch it up sometime. So nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So yeah, it's totally fine. I just saw that expansion coming out, and I saw that I didn't know that you was into the series, so I was a little surprised to see that that you was playing it. So that's good. That's interesting. Yeah, I may have.
I was never really super into it. I did try it like once years ago, like maybe like 10 years ago or something, but it never stuck. I never stuck with it. And I just, because the new expansion was coming out and because I know someone else who's playing it now, I just decided to start trying to play it again. So that's the reason why I hopped on and got back into it.
Okay. That's cool. It's good. All right, so as for what I've been playing, I've had a very, very busy week playing one game in particular. I can finally announce, yes, I have been playing Spider-Man. We will have a review on Tuesday, September 4th, early in the morning. I believe it's around 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't quote me on that. But all I can really say about Spider-Man is we're going to get into this conversation later on about some of the criticisms, but man, people are very, very wrong in a lot of the stuff that they said about this game. And obviously, I know that Insomniac has a ton of pressure on them to deliver in what they're doing with this game, obviously. But what they've done so far, what I am allowed to say is, yeah, it's a lot of things exceeded my expectations. A lot of the gameplay that we've seen that people obviously have been talking about, that has been a major, major point of emphasis that people have talked about. And I find that hilarious because about 95% of the people who saw those images and said, oh, well, the game is downgraded, they haven't even played the final game. They haven't seen anything from the final game. So, kind of ridiculous to go out there and have those claims without having played the game, but we'll get into that discussion later. All I'm going to say is I have a lot of things to say about the game, but I just can't say because, again, we're under an embargo here. But definitely stay tuned for the review. And, of course, I'll have even more to say when we record the show next week because that's the day that the game actually comes out. So stay tuned for that. But that's really all that I have been playing. There is another game that I actually just got that I am going to be able to talk about next week, so stay tuned for that.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts on some of the topics later on then, considering you've been playing that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's hard to not be able to talk about this stuff because, again, well, I don't want to be getting anybody in trouble, and I don't want us to be in trouble, but don't worry. Only a couple of days, so I'll have a lot more to say soon. And I am going to say some stuff once we get to the actual topic regarding Spider-Man, so stay tuned for that. So let's go ahead. First and foremost, I hate to start the show off on this note, but we have to address this topic. Unfortunately, last Sunday, during a Madden NFL tournament, there was a shootout that took place, unfortunately. it happened on Sunday, so we normally record the co-op on Fridays now, so we wasn't able to really talk about this and address it. I did want to say that we definitely want to give our heartfelt condolences to everybody that was impacted by this, because it's a tragedy, something that should have never ever happened, in my personal opinion. There has been some news that has come out since this incident, and that is that EA is donating $1 million to the victims of the shooting. So, Gary, I wanted to get your thoughts on this first, because obviously it's a very touchy subject. A lot of people have once again gone back to blaming video games for this situation, which doesn't make sense to me. But what are your thoughts on everything that happened last week?
It's a very unfortunate thing, man, and it's like you can never like really control something like that. You can't stop something like that from happening, because when stuff like that happens, it's obviously an issue. It's a personal issue that person has, and it's like you can never predetermine something like that. You can never predict it. You just never know. And obviously after the fact, people dug into the guy's history and they saw he had tweets about certain like he was actually siding with some of the previous shooters who did things like that. He was saying he would hang out with certain people who shot and killed people before in similar incidents. But I mean, before it happens, you would never know. Like you would never think to look into somebody's background and stuff. The only thing I could say is that maybe wherever this tournament was being held, they should have had better security. Because I mean, when I went to the Overwatch thing, I mean, it's the Barclays, so of course they're going to have top-notch security. But like I would, because my mom saw this news story and she immediately came to me and she was like, "Isn't that like what you went to?" And obviously she's concerned because like I went to something similar to that, like an esport, But yeah, I think it's down to the venue and the people organizing these events. Like you've got to have better security, and that's the only way you can probably try and prevent something like this from happening. Now, as for EA, this is a good move on their part. They definitely should do that. They have the money to spend, and a lot of people they were unfortunate to lose loved ones and stuff like that. So EA should definitely be donating and supporting the victims' families and everything like that. So this is a good move on their part. I mean, yeah, I don't really want to bash EA right now because that's a good move. That's something they should be doing. So I don't want to get too deep and start bashing them because that's a good move on their part. But it's just very unfortunate, and what's more unfortunate is just the backlash of this, the stuff that happens on the back end of this incident, because now it's like everybody, that whole argument that always comes up about video games being too violent and gamers being violent and all this stuff, we have to hear this whole narrative again and again whenever something like this happens. And that's just sad, it's unfortunate. But hey, like, I mean, we can't focus on it too much. The incident is still very fresh, and I think the only thing we should be doing at this point is just sending our condolences to the victims and just trying to move forward and hope that things will get better in the following, like the next wave of esports events. Let's just hope that people learn from this and they implement better security. And they start screening especially the players, like they start screening the actual people who will be playing more. Like maybe they'll force them to register beforehand and stuff. I mean, I don't know how this was structured, but they should definitely do some pre-prep in terms of who's going to be playing and looking into. I mean, you don't have to do a full background check or anything, but just know who you're letting into your event. Because in the case of the Overwatch thing I went to, these are all professional players. There's no way they would do anything like that. So with this, I guess it was more of an independent thing or more of a lower end thing that's available to local people so that they could come and play and stuff like that. And if that's the case, then you still kind of have to do some preparation just to make sure it's safe for everyone, because you're going to have families and, you know, children and all sorts of different people coming to this stuff. So you have to make sure that all this stuff is going to be safe for everyone. So hopefully everybody learns a lesson moving forward, and this nothing like this ever happens again.
I agree 100% with everything that you said. I also, when this incident happened, I also received a call from my mom because she thought that I was at this event. And obviously I said, no, I wasn't at that event. You know, I do live in Georgia. This event happened in Jacksonville, Florida. So I had to tell her, you know, calm down. I wasn't there. But I did see, after, as I was talking to her, the video started circulating, going around, actually showing what happened. Well, it didn't show the graphic nature of what actually happened. It showed that there were players playing on Xboxes, playing Madden. And then when it went to the screen of the actual gameplay, then that's when you heard the shots firing. You didn't see anybody getting shot, but just seeing that was very disturbing, and hearing it was very disturbing also. So it's a very unfortunate situation. It really makes, like you said, Gary, security needs to be something that all of these venues get better at in regards to this stuff. I know when we went to E3 this past year, well, a couple months ago, actually, one thing I have to give E3 credit for, the security was on lock. You know, we had to go through metal detectors, everything. They had dogs there that were sniffing the people to make sure that they didn't have any weapons. So they need to have that, especially at these events where you have a lot of crowds, and, you know, just to try to assure or reduce the possibility of something happening. Now, the one thing I did want to say, and I'm not going to stay too much on this particular topic, I did see the media, some of the media responded to this saying that video games were to blame for this. And then right there, I just want to say that right there shows the ignorance of some people who don't really know their information, because Madden NFL is a football game. The person that did the shooting, this was tied to the person obviously having other issues that they're dealing with. Maybe there were certain things that they weren't happy about in their life, and they decided to take their frustrations out on others, which in my opinion is a coward way to deal with a situation. So that whole incident right there, people need to really focus a light on and understand it's about the person involved. This has nothing to do with the video game. Now, you can make the argument that the person lost the game, and then maybe they were somewhat, I guess, they felt they needed to take action against people that they beat, but that's besides the point, because I saw the interviews they had with the people after the fact. And they said, yeah, the person lost, but the person was already down, and obviously something was visibly wrong with the person before he even played the matchups. So obviously it starts with the individual, whatever he was going on in his own personal life. Let it get out of control, didn't communicate how he felt. Maybe he did communicate and somebody wasn't listening. But it's an unfortunate situation. And I would like to say that I hope stuff like this doesn't happen in the future. But at the very least, I will say I definitely expect it to be a lot more security measures taken at all of these events now because of this type of stuff. And you have to do that because, again, you got to think about people who are coming in as public. You know, I mean, I'm not saying the public are bad. I'm just saying people that are coming to these events, you don't really know all this stuff you need to know about them. Anything can happen at this stuff, though. So once again, I do offer my condolences to the families involved. I hope that nothing like this ever happens again. But we live in some really rocky, bad times now. So everybody needs to be careful in general. Watch themselves. But yeah, it's a bad situation. And as for EA donating the millions to the families, yeah, I mean, I guess that can help to some extent. It's not going to bring back the people that were killed. So that's the one thing that is unfortunate, you know, because everything that I've seen from the interviews, the people that were shot, great people, you know, nice, good-natured individuals. They love playing games. So that's why when I hear about this type of stuff, it really is disturbing. But I guess, you know, like I just said, they just got to do better with the security in the future. That's the only thing that I can really think of to add to that particular topic. So Did you have any other thoughts you wanted to say on this matter?
No, I mean, the only other thing I'd say is like, I don't have children or anything, but I would like to think that I could bring my children to, if I had them to a video game event like this, a tournament or something, without there being any issues. So they really do have to, make a better effort of making sure these events are safe for everyone. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say.
I agree. There's definitely going to be some changes, I would say, with all this stuff now. A lot more things are going to happen. If they didn't have good security for this type of stuff, they're definitely going to have it now for every event that goes down. So, but yeah, everyone has to be careful out here. Definitely be careful in how you conduct yourself when you go out somewhere. Make sure you're with somebody. But yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation. It's unfortunate we have to talk about it, but we had to say something on it because it happened after we had already recorded last week's show. So prayers and condolences to the families involved, and let's hope this doesn't happen again. Let's see. All right, I'm going to now shift focus to another topic to get right back into gaming, and this also has to do with EA. We received news earlier, well, I want to say towards the end of this week, that Battlefield 5 has now been delayed and is coming out November 20th. Initially, this game was supposed to come out, I believe it was going to be around October 12th. So it was going to come out smack dab in between Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, and Red Dead Redemption 2. So, Gary, I wanted to get your thoughts on this because I know that you are a huge Battlefield fan. First and foremost, you told me that you're not getting Battlefield 5. So just let me know what your thoughts are first on the delay and why you are not interested in the product enough to get it this particular year.
Yeah, suddenly I have a really bad feeling about this game. I used to be a Battlefield fan. I used to love it, and I still like it, more. I would rather play Battlefield than Call of Duty. And that's always going to be true from now on. But I just got a bad feeling about this one, and the moves they're making and the way they're showing the game, the fact they haven't shown the battle royale and stuff like that. Like, I just have a bad feeling, and it feels like they're not confident with the game themselves, especially if they have to push it back. So I have just a bad feeling, and to be honest, I'm kind of tired of these games anyway, like the Call of Duties and Battlefields and stuff. Like, do something new, give us something different. Like, I'm at a point now where I respect games like shooters like Destiny and Overwatch and things like that, like shooters that are doing different things. Because we've had a ton of these military shooters like for the past decade. We've just been getting them back to back to back every year. And I'm just kind of drained. And unless they show me something incredible that I absolutely have to have, I'm done. I'm not that interested, right now. So, and everything they're doing is just making me less confident in them. So yeah, that's pretty much my stance on Battlefield at the moment.
I totally understand that. So let me just go ahead and give a disclaimer right now. I was on the co-op right after we went to EA Play 2018. I still haven't forgotten about how horrible that show is. So everything that I say right now, I'm just letting you know, I'm coming from a very critical, biased standpoint. Battlefield 5, the delay, I guess you could say, is good for EA, because they think they will be able to sell more copies. But I also have to say, I saw the footage, saw the game. I have no interest whatsoever in this game because to me, it feels like EA is sitting on a lot of other franchises that they should bring back. And I know when we was at EA Play, some of the games that we thought were going to be there weren't there. We didn't see NBA Street make a return. We did not see, of course, we didn't see Battlefield Bad Company, which I think would have been a far better game for them to do now because we already got Battlefield 4, Battlefield 1. We got that not too long ago. So I was very disappointed in that show. So, I mean, obviously Anthem, I know people was talking about that. They was excited for Anthem. I will tell you, after seeing what happened with Mass Effect Andromeda, I will be very, very hesitant on Anthem until I actually get to play and see more from the game. But I will say that in regards to Battlefield 5, I was never really interested in the game to begin with. Now, I will say that there still will be people that will pick it up in November, because there's a couple of releases in November. I mean, I know Hitman 2 is coming out. A couple of games here and there. Smash Brothers comes out in December. That's like really the only major game besides Just Cause 4, which will be also be out in December. But in regards to the November releases, it's fine to move it out there. But my whole thing is, I hope that people are actually going to have money by the time it gets to November, because October is absolutely insane. You know, you have Assassin's Creed coming out the same month, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Call of Duty. And I know that people looking at Black Ops are like, they're not going to pick this up. There's no way in hell people won't pick this up, because I know a lot of people love Black Ops. Call of Duty always sells. And even though it doesn't have a campaign, I'm about 100% sure it's still going to do well sales-wise, because it's Call of Duty. It also has a Battle Royale mode, which we know is now popular. So that's all of those are factors. But to stay on Battlefield, you know, I think it's fine for them to delay the game. Do you think it's going to increase the sales? That's totally fine with me. But I know I will not be picking up Battlefield 5. I know quite a bit of number of people told me that they are going to also pass on this game. So it is what it is. And hopefully EA does try to do other projects in the future. Like I've already said, Battlefield Bad Company, that would have been a great game to do, because it gives you a break from the traditional Battlefield games. And I thought that's what they initially were going to do when they talked about this stuff in the past, which was going to be alternate between that and in this game. I know Titanfall 3, that's another game that's in development. That'll probably be out further down the road. But yeah, I just don't really, I'm not really looking forward to Battlefield 5. I'm not excited for it, so we'll see how it's received by the public once it comes out November 20th.
Yeah, I mean, like you kind of hinted towards, I don't really trust anything coming out of EA right now, to be honest. Like, they have to really prove themselves to me again, you know, for me to buy one of their products. Because BioWare used to be one of my favorite publishers, and now like they've just been reduced to like, you know, crap basically. Like, you know, like I know they're working on another Dragon Age, and Dragon Age Origins is one of my favorite RPGs of all time, but I don't trust them to do a good job with the next one. So until I see otherwise, EA is on my personal blacklist right now. Like,
yeah, that's totally fine. Totally fine. I totally understand that. And we'll see what happens with Battlefield. But like I said before, I've said this on previous podcasts, I really do hope that Anthem delivers, because if it does not, that's it for BioWare. And I know a lot of people like, no, we jump into conclusions. Nah, man, I think that's it, because BioWare, they got hurt badly with Mass Effect Andromeda. And even though EA says, oh, the franchise is on ice for now, it's coming back, that may not even happen, because if Anthem flops, that's it. That's it for BioWare. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we will not have to revisit this discussion in a negative context, but we'll see what happens next year when Anthem drops, because I think that's coming out in February. So we'll know in a couple of months whether or not that game actually is any good.
Indeed.
So let's move on to the next topic. Get away from EA. There were two announcements that took place this week. One announcement that I knew about a long time ago. Obviously, couldn't talk about it because it was under embargo, and the other announcement I had no idea. So first and foremost, we had Streets of Rage 4 announced, which was a very big deal. I will go ahead and admit this now. This game is actually at PAX West. The reason I know about it is because they were trying to schedule an appointment for me to actually see the game, but I didn't go to PAX West, so obviously that didn't happen. But still, I didn't know that this was going to get announced earlier this week, because they told me when it was going to get announced. So Streets of Rage 4 was announced. And then in addition to that news, we also had a another I guess a new entry in the Onimusha series that was announced.
Yeah, it's remastered, I think.
It's remastered. Okay, see, I must admit, and I will just admit right now, I didn't even play the original game, so I don't really know anything about that game. Maybe I will try it out. We'll see. But Streets of Rage 4, I do know about. So, Gary, I want to get your opinion when you saw the brief teaser trailer that they showed for Streets of Rage 4 earlier this week.
All right, yeah. So I have to say a few things about this because me and Tony Polanco had a discussion about this in one of our chats and everything. So my first impressions when I saw that, I was like, "Are you serious? Like, this is it? Like, you know, like this is what we've been waiting for over 20 years." Because the reason I said that is because it looks like every other, like, you know, 2D kind of beat 'em up game that we've seen, you know, on the indie marketplaces over the past few years or so, you know. Now when I spoke to Tony about it and I told him my thoughts and told him I was a bit underwhelmed with the announcement and everything, especially the fact they only showed two characters. And he was like, you know what, like this is completely hand drawn and they spend a lot of time making this hand drawn, like the art style and everything. Now, I just want to say this. I understand that and I respect that, but and that is, you know, it's a really that's a really pristine talent to hand draw a game, and you know that is something to admire and respect. You know, I understand that, but at the same time, just because it is hand drawn, it doesn't mean the game itself is going to be good. Like I want to see what's good about this game. Like what should we be excited for besides the art style? Because I mean, with a beat 'em up game, cool, you know, like there's not that much of an expectation in terms of the visuals because you know what you're getting in terms of, you know, it's 2D style and everything. Now, if it is hand drawn, that's a bonus because it will look very unique. You know, it will look very different in terms of the visual style and everything. But what's going to be, you know, different and what's going to be added to the actual game itself? I mean, I saw enemies that looked like the enemies in the old game, and you've got Axel, you got Blaze. You know, like, I mean, what new is there to be excited for? Like, because my thing is, there was an indie developer who created Streets of Rage remake, and he worked on this for like years and years and years, like maybe like 8 years or something. Like, he was working on the Streets of Rage remake. He even reached out to Sega at the time, and he got their permission. And then he finally finished it. You know, he had a lot of beta versions over the years that he was working on it, but he finally finished it and he put it out. And then Sega came through and, you know, they put out a cease and desist. They took it down, you know, straight away, even though they gave him his blessing before. And that game was pretty good. I still have it, like, because I managed to download it when it was up, and that Streets Rage remake was really good. Like, you know, you had all the characters, you could make customizations, you can customize that outfit, you could customize the bad guys and everything like that. Like, it was amazing for a Streets of Rage fan, you know. And I feel like if Sega was smart, they would have just bought that. You know, they should have just bought that guy or hired him and have him make a Streets Rage remake. Now, this game is like, I feel like Sega is being very hands off, and that's probably, you know, because of the structure of Sega at the moment. Like, this is a different Sega than the Sega 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. So they're probably being very hands off with it because they don't have a lot of the original people who worked on Streets of Rage. So they're probably just like, okay, we have this studio, they've worked on games before, let's let them do this and let them do their vision and everything. But I mean, I just want to know what's going to be, is this going to feel authentic to the original Streets of Rage games, or is it just going to be, you know, a new game with a Streets of Rage skin on it? Because that's my thing. It looks like this could be, you know, it could be a completely original game, but it just has a Streets of Rage skin on it, you know. And I guess that's what made me a bit underwhelmed because it doesn't feel like it was designed. It was first imagined to be a Streets of Rage game. It just feels like Sega went to someone like, oh, I see you make games, could you make us a template kind of beat 'em up, and do some hand drawn stuff so it looks a bit unique visually, but we want it to be Streets of Rage, and that's where it kind of seems like to me. It's like it doesn't feel like there was a lot of thought behind it in terms of planning like where we want to go with the story, how we want to continue the story, what's happened to Axel and Blaze and Skate and Max. Do they have all this thought out? Like, do they have a story fully fleshed out, or do they just want to give us something with the Streets of Rage name because they know that we're going to buy it? And I guess that's what I like. I guess the biggest problem I have is that I expected a bigger announcement than just what we got. Like, that could have been like a 10-minute video or something, like just explaining the vision, explaining, that are they going to have more characters included? And, I just wanted to know more, and I guess I just didn't get enough, and I expected more from a Streets of Rage announcement in 2018. Maybe that's the problem. Like, I just wanted to hear more about it. So that's where I'm coming from. But shouts to Tony, because I know he's very excited. Torrance Davis as well. I know those guys very excited, and there's a lot of us who hold that series near and dear to our hearts. So yeah, shouts to those guys. But what did you think, Rich?
So I think you made some great points. I know that the game is actually, they said it's being done by the artists on Wonder Boy. Now, I will say this, for it being a hand-drawn animated game, I have to give some credit to the animators, because I do know, having went to school for film animation video, that is a very tedious process. So this game is probably going to take a while before it actually comes out. The one issue that I have with the reveal, and I think it's an issue that a lot of people, because even you brought this up, why are there only 2 people that they showed? I feel like you could have waited till you had your whole cast of characters together and then reveal it collectively as a whole, rather than revealing it in pieces. Because, again, to me, the whole thing is that one thing, and we're going to probably get into this later on, I do feel nowadays a lot of companies, devs, they show their games way too early. And then obviously when there's changes down the road, either good or bad changes, then it's very noticeable because you'll see people going back and forth over, well, this is what the original video showed and this is what it looks like now, which we're going to get into later. But my whole thing is that with this particular game, I do think it should have been a much bigger announcement. They went for the reveal, show you just a quick 45 second to a minute trailer, which is fine. But yeah, I do agree, Gary. It definitely should have been more in depth. Maybe they could have taken the route that EA took at E3 a while ago. The E3 we went to, where everything they talked about was a concept and nothing was actually done. Even then, there was still more information in a much longer presentation when they did that. So I definitely think if you want to announce this, it probably could have been a much bigger announcement in a much longer video. As you said, Sega is more hands-off on this, and I agree with that 100%, because they've been busy working on these Yakuza games, bringing these games to PlayStation 4. Fist of the North Star is also coming out very soon. They've been working on that. Not to mention all these other projects that they're doing now. So I definitely expect them to have a hands-off approach, because they already have all these other projects that they have on their plate. But yeah, they definitely should have taken some more time to really have a great announcement. I'm not saying, now I just want to be clear, I'm not saying the game is going to be bad. What we can see much later from this game definitely could be fantastic. But I did think that the animation looked great, only because I know it takes a long time to do this animation stuff. This is, yeah, just to do that drawing, just for that sequence, I would not be surprised if that took them several months to a year just to get to that point, to try and do the animations for that particular sequence. But you know, ultimately they do need to show us more, I think. talk about the story, talk about what players can expect, they have to go into more detail. So hopefully they are going to be able to do that. I understand the nature of PAX, and because the company that is behind this game, why they will want to reveal it at PAX, that's totally fine. But there definitely has to be more information given at a certain point, because it feels like that announcement was made just to get people hyped, let you know it's in development, which is great. But there's another game that we got an announcement for to let people know was in development, a game we spoke about last week, Shenmue 3. And that game still hasn't dropped. So, yeah, I think it's totally fine if you want to announce something, but make sure you have enough that to keep people talking about after the fact. I think that's something that they definitely need to consider next time. But we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. And like that's the biggest problem with this, like this should have been a major announcement. Like we should have got a lot of information, a lot of the details, and we should understand their full vision. Like everything should be clear after you announce Streets of Rage 4. You can't just give us a little 2-minute video or whatever. Like like you have to give us more than that. Like people have been waiting for this game for like over 20 years now. So so yeah, you have to be more clear. You have to give us more to go off of. And we would have been cool with waiting another year for the announcement, like if there was going to be more to show, so yeah.
I agree 100%. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the game because I think about the nostalgia behind it. But just have to wait and see how the finished product turns out. I don't think this is a game that's coming out. It's definitely not coming out before E3 next year. I don't think it is. I didn't get any indication of that from the trailer. Maybe it'll be out in fall of next year, perhaps. But we'll have to wait and see what else. And yeah, more information is needed. More fighters, hopefully. It better not be just those two people in the game, because I can tell you right now, people will not like that. So we need to see more diversity in the cast, like we did in the other games.
If they do DLC unlockable characters, then I'm done.
That's possible. Listen, that's very possible. That's very possible. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Let's move on to the next topic. And I guess this is basically just an updated topic. Last week, we spoke about the rumors regarding Xbox All Access, and it is now officially confirmed. So, Gary, do you have any additional thoughts that you want to say on this topic that you maybe alluded to last week?
No, I just want to give Microsoft props for trying something new like this. I think this is a really brave move from them. And I think it's a necessary move as well for them. And I think it's something that could really catch on, to be honest. Like, I think this could really boost their numbers, boost their sales, and put a lot more Xboxes in homes. And I think it's a great model to try out for consoles. I mean, I can't remember the price for the Xbox One X. I think it was like, was it like $40 a month or something like that? $40 to $50. And you get, the X, you get the Game Pass, you get Xbox Live, and with Games Pass, you get 100 games, and yeah, you get like 100 games. So, I mean, that's a great deal right there, I think, especially if like you're a parent and you want a game system for your kids, and you can pay it off over 2 years or whatever. Like, I think it's good. I think it's really good, especially considering people are paying that sort of money for phones at the moment, like, so if you're able to structure your monthly income like that to where you can own an Xbox One X and you can own your iPhone XS Plus, whatever iPhone comes out next month or whatever, like, like, I think that's cool. Like, I think it's a good thing to try, because I think people have a problem with paying a lump sum of like $500 or whatever, outright for the console. Like that can be hard, like to just lose $500 like that. But if you're paying it over the course of 2 years and you're just paying a certain amount every month, then that's much more manageable. And I think you'll begin to see more people buying into the Xbox because of this model, and I think other companies should consider trying it out too. And and this is something that can be ongoing, so that when the next Xbox comes out, they just add another subscription plan for that one too. And it could be a smooth transition into the next console. Now, going back to E3, I was one of those people that was very unhappy with them mentioning the fact that they're already working on another console, because they just put out the X. But this kind of makes it better, because I can understand the vision now. Like, I could see their vision and their thinking, because it's like, okay, I mean, you don't have to rush to get that system, like the new system. Like, you can get a subscription plan for the X if you really want it now, and then by the time you finish paying off the X, you can just go on to the next plan, and get the next system, and then you can sell the X if you want to, the Xbox One X or something, or give it to somebody else in the family. So I think in that, if you're thinking about it like that, that makes more sense. And especially since it seems like all these games are going to be cross play now, so like they're going to be backwards compatible. I mean, so you can continue to play your games from the Xbox One X on the whatever the next Xbox is, Xbox 2 or whatever, so if they do it like that, then it begins to make more sense as to everything they announced at E3, and especially with the new studios as well, because if they're doing subscriptions like this, they're going to want a ton of new games coming out. So it makes sense why they bought all those studios, and there are now rumors and reports that they're looking to buy even more studios. So now this all makes sense, because you have Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Live, and you have this big subscription plan, and you want games for it. Like, you have to keep giving people games for it to justify that monthly charge. So it all makes sense now, and I'm starting to see their vision a bit more. And I think it's good. I think it could be game changing, for them. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah. I personally think I also think it was a great move by Microsoft. Like I had mentioned last week, I said it's a good move for Microsoft. My only concern was that I want to make sure that they have an investment in Game Pass, like having more exclusive titles. Like I had mentioned, Forza, obviously, that's going to be coming later this year. Tomorrow, Halo Master Chief Collection will be available for those that have Game Pass. So that's great. But one thing I did see this week that I thought was interesting is I know that Microsoft did mention that they are wanting to invest in more studios. So the announcement that we got at E3 was really just the beginning. They definitely want to acquire and get more studios on board to release more stuff specific for Game Pass as well as Xbox in general. So I think that is an excellent strategy, because I think they definitely need that. I think that will add more value to the service, because as I mentioned last week, Game Pass is a great service, but when you have a newer game coming out that you also want to get, and you're already paying a subscription price for this console and everything else, that kind of, dampers things a little bit. Like, for example, say that I wanted to purchase Fallout 76. You would have to buy that separately outside of Game Pass. That's not going to be available on Game Pass, at least not for I want to say maybe until next year, because eventually Bethesda does put their games on Game Pass, but you have to wait a while to get that. So what I'm getting at is that if you want to buy a new game right as soon as it comes out, but you can't get any discounts with Game Pass, you can't get anything, you have to buy it outright. At that point, then it becomes a little bit more costly for somebody, because you're already paying a monthly expense for the console, Xbox Live, Game Pass, etc. So I think it's a very, very good idea for them to invest in more studios, bring more games to Game Pass that are exclusive to Xbox, and then the service has more value that way. But right now, Game Pass is still an excellent value. I'm just saying, if I was to talk to somebody and they was asking me, should they get an Xbox One right now, I would say if you can afford that monthly cost right now, absolutely. But if they was to ask me about the software that's on there, I would say, yeah, there's some titles on there. You know, Sea of Thieves is on there, State of Decay 2, Forza, Halo. But I would tell them you need to research what titles you're actually interested in, because then once you know what type of games you like to play, that'll help you determine whether or not you actually want to buy the console in the first place. But I definitely give props to Microsoft because it makes the system more affordable. It'll get more Xboxes in more homes, and that'll definitely help their sales numbers increase over time. I just need to see more of the software, more of the original exclusive software. But they're off to a good start, so I got to give them credit for this. And as you said, Gary, I would not be surprised if this is a success and Sony also decides, you know what, we have the PlayStation 5 coming out in a couple of years. Maybe we should also give this as an option to people who want to pick up a PlayStation 5. So I totally see that happening, just like what happened with Xbox Live and PlayStation Plus, both services that you have to pay for now. So we'll see what happens. But any other thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how Sony is going to respond to this, especially if this is successful. Because, you know, they've got PlayStation Now, they've got PlayStation Plus, and, you know, they got the PlayStation 4 Pro, you know, so they could do something. And then we already know that I mean, there's reports surfacing that, you know, the next PS5 is going to be, yeah, it's probably going to be talked about soon. So I think it's definitely something for them to consider doing as well. And even Nintendo, you know, I mean, I know they've did they launch their subscription thing yet, or is that coming soon? The Nintendo.
I mean, I don't really know for sure because I haven't been playing on Switch. I do know that the complaint with that service is because you have to use the app on the phone. So they haven't really figured that out yet. But I do think it is out now to some extent, but they're still trying to rework it. I don't know what Nintendo's doing with their online service.
Well, I mean, Nintendo, you know, they have a lot of valuable IPs and systems that people would love to, you know, to play, and they have a loyal, dedicated fan base. So if they did something, they would get a lot of, you know, sales too from it, I think. So it's something for, I think this could be industry changing. You know, it could be an industry changing move. And if Microsoft are the ones to lead the way, this puts them in a great position, especially when they transition to the next system. So yeah, I mean, I gotta give them props for trying something new, something this bold. But that's all I got to say.
I agree. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Definitely exciting. And once again, give props to Microsoft. It's a great idea. I'm just curious to see how the response is going to be for the people that actually do pick up the console. And, of course, to see if there's going to be any other responses from the competitor. So stay tuned for that. All right, so let's move on now to one of the main topics for today. Obviously, we got to talk about Spider-Man and all of the criticisms that have been thrown at Spider-Man. So, Gary, I'm going to let you start off by asking some of these questions, and then I can give some answers on some of these topics, as well as my feedback as well. So you can start this discussion, because I'm pretty sure there's some very specific stuff you want to ask based on this list that I see.
Yeah, so I mean, before we get to the texture stuff, which is the talk of the town and everything, so you know, there was another outcry about this game that involves DLC, because the DLC was being heavily promoted, you know, and the game isn't even out yet, and people see this as them taking content away from the game just so they can sell it as DLC. When, you know, because if they've already finished this content, or they've already been developing it alongside the main game, why not just put it in the game itself, you know? And Spider-Man is a game that's going to attract a whole range of gamers, like not just hardcore gamers that are used to buying DLC. Is going to attract casual people, you know, people who play Fortnite and, you know, like just your general casual audience, because it's Spider-Man and everybody loves Spider-Man. So yeah, there was an outcry about that because people were like, why are you promoting this DLC to sell it to us? Why don't you just put it in the game? You know, like we're paying $60 for this game already. Like, why not just throw it in there for us? Like, you know, and that, you know, I can't argue with that. But at the same time, this is something that's been going on for the past like 5-6 years. You know, like this is the common thing now that we have to put up with. Like this isn't the first game that's done this. So you can't just you can't just harp on this game about it. There's like several other games that do the same thing. You know, like all these other publishers, they do the same thing. I mean, talking about Battlefield, they used to sell the Battlefield Premium thing on day one when you buy, you know, when you bought Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. They had like the premium edition that gave you access to all the DLC, and that was on day one. And I remember paying like £90 for that one time. Like it was a lot, man. So yeah, like companies have been doing this for a long time. And I guess they're making a big fuss about it because it's Spider-Man and this is a game everyone wants. But yeah, I mean, this is just the gaming industry right now. This is what happens. And I mean, this is one of the things that makes me is kind of like made me less enthusiastic about AAA games because it's just you know, stuff like this. Like I feel like I'm not always getting the full value, and that's why I'm not as excited for AAA games these days. And I just kind of stick to stuff that I really like and enjoy. I mean, games like, you know, Spider-Man, Red Dead, and Assassin's Creed, all these games, it's like, I kind of see them as the same now. Like, okay, a AAA company putting out another game to try and milk, you know, funds from gamers. And I'm not saying that these games aren't good, you know, because a lot of times they are good to some extent, but the business practices, it really does annoy me sometimes. And I'm like, I just don't care about DLC anymore. Like I've trained myself to just not care. So if these companies are going to take content out of the game and, you know, try and sell it separate or whatever, I'm not going to buy it. You know, I'm just going to play the game as they give it to me. And if I feel like I didn't get a complete experience, I'm going to talk about that and I'm going to say this game doesn't feel complete to me, and I'm not going to buy your DLC to get the complete experience. So, you know, you're gonna have negative reviews. Basically, you're gonna have a negative review from me if you don't give me enough content from the base game itself, and that's their problem. It's not mine. You know, like I'm not, unless I really want to support a game, and you know, like Overwatch, for example. I mean, I originally got that game for free, but I was so fulfilled by it and so satisfied with it. I bought a ton of loot boxes that probably doubles the value of the actual base game itself, the amount of loot boxes I bought on that game. So I mean, you know, if I want to support a company and I feel like I've been fulfilled and I'm satisfied as a customer, then I will support and I will buy DLC. But if you're trying to sell me all the DLC and all these expansions before I even play the game, I'm going into it already mad. Like I'm going into it already thinking I'm not buying none of that crap. I'm just playing the game how it is, you know, on day one, and that's it. So that's my thoughts on it. That's how I approach things, you know, when it comes to DLC. So when Spider-Man comes out next week, I'm playing the base game, and after I complete it, I'm never playing it again. Like that's gonna be my mindset. That's my mindset. So yeah. What do you think about it?
I totally understand that. I think you make valid points across the board. So one thing I want to say before I get to Spider-Man, I do know that nowadays that there are some publishers where they will announce a digital deluxe edition of the game that's coming out, and they don't really tell you what is in the DLC. Some do. In the case of Spider-Man, they did say that the DLC is basically story-based missions. Now, one thing that I can say right now, and this isn't breaking any embargo, The campaign is pretty lengthy in the base game. So I mean, one thing I would tell somebody if they want this DLC, obviously we need to see how long the DLC is because they haven't really specified any of that information. You know, it's an additional $25 if you get all 3 DLCs, or you can get them for $10 a piece. But they haven't really specified how long the content is going to be. They just said it's more story stuff, separate from the actual main game stuff. So my whole thing with that is that I would tell people, you know, if you don't really want to get the DLC, you probably should just wait and really see whether or not, see how it is received once it comes out. Now, the only thing that I don't really like about the DLC for Spider-Man, they're releasing it at a time where there's going to be so many other games out, people may not even want to pick it up or get a chance to play it. Because the first DLC comes out smack dab in the middle of October, right before Red Dead comes out. So that right there is already an issue. The next 2 come out in November and December, respectively. So my whole thing with that is that if you were going to stretch this stuff out, that's fine. But you make a very good point, Gary, when you said they could have just added all of this to the game, the base game, and gave you that. I don't really know what's in the additional story DLC yet because they provided a little bit of details, but they didn't really give you all the information because you still need to play the actual story in the base game by itself. But I do think that I mean, one thing that I will tell people, and I'm going to also say this in the review, if you want to get the DLC, you might as well. My recommendation would be wait until Black Friday or wait until right at the end of the year because we already know that this game is going to be on sale. Because Sony always has those flash sales. They have it throughout the year, but they especially have their exclusives on sale towards the end of the year because they want to sell more games. Now, when I'm telling you this, that doesn't mean that the game is bad at all. I'm just saying if you want to get more value for your money and you don't want to buy this immediately, wait until it goes on sale and then you get more value for your money because then by then, I'm pretty sure that Digital Deluxe Edition will be probably the price of the actual game the game is right now, $59.99. It could be. But with that said, I will say this. If you do end up picking up Spider-Man and you were concerned about the length, trust me, there's a lot of stuff to do in this game. A lot of side missions, all types of stuff. So it's not like, it may take you a couple of days to get through the game. It's not something where you're just going to be able to get through we able to sit down one time and play through the game from start to finish. That you cannot do that because there's too much stuff that you got to do. And then even when you're actually playing the main story game, a lot of the other stuff that you can do in the city is always there. It's always there. It's always accessible. Some of that stuff you may want to do to take a break from doing the main stuff. So believe me when I say there's a lot of content in the game as is right now, minus the DLC. But I can totally understand why somebody would say why they wouldn't put that DLC in there now. But obviously, I don't really know what the answer. I don't really know what type of answer I would give to that, other than they want to stretch it out as much as possible. They want to make sure that because obviously there's a high production value on the game, and you will see that once you see the game. So obviously they want to try to get as much money as possible. So they don't really have all the content done, or they want to push it out later to try to keep the game fresh. That's totally fine. But yeah, either way, I think you can easily make that argument that they probably should have tried to put all of this stuff in the base game, but that is a business decision where I guess Sony said we want to stretch it out a little bit, and it's totally fine because this is a game where you want to play it, but some people may want to go back to it later. So they just want to give people another reason to come back to it later, I guess. The easiest way to say it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Damn,
but
I had something to say. Yeah, carry on.
Oh no. Well, yeah, it'll come back to you. You can stop me anytime. But yeah, in terms of the actual story stuff, the story deals with so many things. They talk about so much in the base story game, where I can see why they wouldn't want to have that DLC out because then like one thing that we talk about whenever we record these shows, like when we do Power, this is a good example. How you see they introduce all these different storylines into the season, and sometimes you can get lost with what's going on.
Yeah.
I can understand why they wouldn't want some of these other stories to interfere with the base game, because there's a lot that happens in the base game. And I can't really go into detail about the story per se. I'm just saying, though, you can make the case either way. There's certain stuff that should be in the game. Like here's a good example. Now, they did announce the story missions, yes, but then they announced that you also get the Spidey costumes and the other costumes in this DLC. I think that stuff definitely should have been in the base game, without question. The costumes, yeah, because you can switch that stuff out during, as you're playing the game at any time. So I definitely think that stuff, you can make a case that should stay in the game, but some of the other stuff, yeah, it's one way or another. But I can see how some of the stories may get a little too convoluted. So maybe that's why they decided they wanted to separate that and take more time to really refine it. Because the story as is right now, it's a lot going on in the story. So I can understand from that perspective. But I don't know, because, again, I'm not a professional. I don't work for Sony or Insomniac, so I don't really know what the business decision is. But my guess is to give people something to come back to later and not have it just be something where somebody plays it one time and then they don't come back to it. That's my only reasoning as to why they probably did that.
Yeah, I mean, if the game is solid and there's a ton of content in there and the story is like, super good, people are gonna want to come back to it anyway, at some point.
Oh yeah.
Like Last of Us, people are always going back to that game because it was such a great game. Like it's possible for that to happen, or like organically if you put out a good game. But what I was gonna say is, shouts to Throwdown, but I'm gonna start being like, my friend Brian Monjoma, and I'm gonna start just buying these games a year later when the Game of the Year edition comes out and it's got all the content in there. Like that's what I'm gonna start doing. So
yeah, I mean that's not a bad idea. I mean, it's like I said, yeah. I think some people may consider that, but however, the hype is so high for this game right now. A lot of people are going to pick this game up. I don't know if they're going to get the season pass. They may just get the base game, but either way, like I said, if you get the base game, there is a lot. You'll get a great. You will. There's a lot to dive into with that. So, but people have their own choices to make. So we'll have to see what they decide.
I'll be good. I'll just play Overwatch for another year until the game. No, but yeah. So moving on to the second thing that people were outraged about. So yeah, there was a lot of trailer footage for this game shown months prior to the release. Like we've been seeing this game for about 2 years overall, and it looked spectacular, and it still looks good. The version that we're seeing now, but people have been complaining that there's dumbed down textures. The puddles and the suit, the shot where Spider-Man is hanging on the side of the building, and like just everything, all the detail that was in the previous trailers and the previous gameplay footage, it's been scaled down, in this version. Now, as someone who plays on PC, like this is a common thing I see. I mean, like, I see this a lot. Like, whenever I go from PC to a console version of a game, I can instantly see like the downscale, and I mean, it's expected. Like it's what's going to happen. I mean, they develop these games using a computer, using a PC essentially, and then when it comes time to put it on the console, they can only work with what specs the console has, and it's always going to be outdated specs because the console is old. So unless the console manufacturers start putting out yearly consoles, it's always going to be outdated. So I mean, this is going to happen. And I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know, like we've seen it happen with Watch Dogs. It's nothing new. Like this happens. And I don't think the game looks bad. Like from what I've seen, I don't think the version that you have on PS4, I don't think it looks bad. The only thing I would say personally is give me a PC version of this game. Like, I would love to have the PC version. Like, they need to do that. Like, they need to release this on PC because that would be amazing. But yeah, I just, I don't know. Like, what more can you expect? It's PS4. You know, I mean, I don't know what it's like on the PS4 Pro, whether it's super enhanced or anything. I would assume that it looks somewhat better than the normal PS4 version. But I mean, it still looks good to me. I mean, what do you think, Rich?
So I am playing on the base PlayStation 4. I don't have a PlayStation 4 Pro. I did see a lot of the videos, the claims that people kept talking about the Puddlegate, if you will, all this other type of stuff, and the comparison of images. And I know that Insomniac has come out and said, well, the image does change because of the lighting and all this other stuff. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that may not make sense to a lot of people because they're talking from a technical standpoint. I will say this: the game looks great. You know, I mean, I don't really analyze these videos like everyone else out here because they're looking at the older footage. I think obviously sometimes a lot of these games do change over time. We know Watch Dogs, this was a game that definitely changed, significantly changed from what we saw. There's a long list of games that you can say absolutely have changed. But what I have seen of this game looks fantastic. So, I mean, I don't really know what people are talking about as far as overanalyzing a lot of this other stuff. The only issue I have is that a lot of people, they will see these screenshots and they will instantly come back and say, well, now I'm not going to get the game. Because I saw these conversations on Twitter and I laughed where there were people that were saying, oh, I pre-ordered the game, now I'm going to cancel it because I looked in, because I heard what someone said, I looked at an image and then that was it. I think that's a little ridiculous. Now, when it gets to that point, it doesn't make any kind of sense because I think everyone should have their own point of view. I think anyone and everyone should play a game and then determine how they feel about it. I'm not saying you look at what someone else says about the game when you haven't played it and then jump to that conclusion, because I feel a lot of people did that. But I just think overall, when you see how much detail went into creating the actual world, when you see all of the stuff that Insomniac did with the game, I think a lot of people are going to, for the most part, they won't really have any criticisms regarding the way that it looks. They can critique other aspects of it, but the way it looks is, I don't really have any issues with that. Part of me wants to really go back and see what people were complaining about, but I already saw the screenshots, and I have to tell you, when I got to those certain parts in the game, it looked pretty much the same. It didn't look so dramatically different like that screenshot showed. So I don't really understand what they were complaining about. But again, I don't really know how it looks on PlayStation 4 Pro because, again, I'm playing on the base PlayStation 4. So I don't have a 4K TV. Maybe they could see more detailed stuff that I couldn't see because they have the latest TV or whatever. I don't know. But graphically, the game looks fantastic, in my personal opinion. So much... Like if you've seen Insomniac games that they've done, in, you know, Sunset Overdrive, I love that game. That was a fantastic game. It looks great also. But with this game, visually, it looks good to me. I didn't have any issues with it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we're at a point where gamers are just so spoiled nowadays. It's like, I don't understand why people even complain about graphics anymore because literally every game out there looks good now. Like, do you remember a time where games were pixelated and characters looked like square blocks and, you know, like it was polygons at one point, and like we've come so far and now every game looks photorealistic. Like every game has good graphics, you know, and now people are you know, concerning themselves with the density of the pixels. Like it's why are people getting so like technical with this stuff? Like, you know, like, I mean, if it looks good, it looks good. Like, to be honest with you, performance matters more than the actual graphics at this point. Like if the game, you know, the how many frames per second the game is running at and things like that. Those matter more than the actual graphics and the pixel detail, the pixel density and stuff, because every game looks amazing now. Like, so who cares like whether it has less pixels than what's showing in the trailers, you know? Like, as long as the game still looks good and it runs good, and you know you're getting the experience you expected story wise and content wise, then what is there to complain about? You know, like, people just want to find stuff to complain about. So
I agree with that 100%. I do understand that there will be some people that will complain about a lot of things, but I also think that you made the point that you made earlier about if anyone is complaining about anything on consoles, there is an alternative to this, which is PC. We have already said multiple times, PC is the best way to play a lot of games. This game is not going to be on PC. It's only on PlayStation 4. So in terms of what the PlayStation 4 is able to do, I think it does a pretty great job at what it has to offer. Again, I haven't seen the game on PlayStation 4 Pro, so it definitely can perform somewhat better and even look better. It is possible. And also, if you have a 4K TV, then yeah, a lot of this stuff is going to stand out more to you. But for me, playing on just a standard PlayStation 4, the game looks great to me. I didn't notice any of these issues. And then again, when you see all that they've done with the game, how immersive the world is and everything, I think when you get pulled into that, that actually is going to be part of the gameplay experience as well. So people should take that into account. But the main thing I'm going to say is the people that are complaining about, oh, it's downgraded, in my opinion, so I'm going to not pre-order the game. These people need to actually play the game and then form their own opinion. Don't look at what everyone else is saying or what one or a few other people are saying, because we already know that this started with a few people saying something, and then after that, everyone jumped onto it, and it was like, oh, yeah. But no, they need to actually play the game, see what it has to offer, and then if you want to critique it, then you can do so, or can do it as you're playing it. Don't go based off of what others are saying and be like, oh, no, this game is horrible, because it's that they'll be totally off base if they made these types of statements.
Yeah. And you know, you mentioned you said it yourself, like, you know, there is another option. There's PC. If you genuinely care about the graphical detail that much, you like all those people that were complaining, you better own a gaming PC. If you care about graphics, if you care about graphics to that level, like, you better own a gaming PC, because I don't understand why you're complaining if you don't. So.
Oh no! I'm pretty sure that some of the people complaining they own an Xbox One X, and we do know Xbox One X does have some performance enhancements over PlayStation 4 Pro, but the game is not on Xbox One X, so that's another reason why they complain, because it's not coming to Xbox. It's only on PlayStation 4. I don't want to buy a PlayStation 4 for this game, so they could be complaining about that also.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. But any other questions in regards to Spider-Man and the whole situation that you wanted to ask me about?
That's pretty much it. I mean, the game comes out next week, so I mean, I'll be looking forward to checking out and seeing for myself what all the fuss is about. So, I mean, that's pretty much it for now, and I'll be looking forward to your review as well. So. Well,
yeah, my review will be going up on Tuesday. Like I said, I will admit right now, I will talk about more stuff, but there's certain aspects I don't want to talk about. I do think the story in particular, it is very important that you experience the story for yourself. So I will not be like these people out here that are going to just spoil stuff. I will not say anything on that, but definitely look forward to the review on Tuesday to give you a better idea as to what to expect from the overall product. Yeah. And finally, let's go to the main topic for this discussion. And I'm very curious to get your input on this, because I actually saw this video during E3. Max Muller and we saw the actual gameplay demo before anyone else saw it. Well, there was some people that did get that invite that did see it during E3. But, of course, CD Projekt Red, they finally showed the gameplay reveal footage for Cyberpunk 2077 earlier this week. And before we get into what was said on that particular stream, first I want to get your initial impressions. What did you think of what you saw? Was you impressed, or what didn't you like about what they showed in that presentation?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't watch the whole thing. It was 40 minutes long, and it's really hard to just find 40 minutes to watch something like that these days. But you know, for me, but I watched maybe like 10 minutes, and I was already sold. Like I was sold at like, you know, probably 3 minutes in. To be honest with you, like this is my type of game. I already know what CD Projekt can do. I love The Witcher. And you know, I already respect them. They're one of my favorite studios. And I already know this is going to be great, to be honest. Like and you know, I love the whole cyberpunk setting. I read a lot of cyberpunk books. And you know, I love the presentation of it all, and it seems like it's going to be a pretty incredible game. And you know, I just love the whole aspect of creating your character, your unique character, and then you know, being able to just hop out in the world and do different things. And I like how you know, that even from the different jackets that you wear, they give you different stat bonuses and things like that. Like it's a real RPG, and that's what I'm into. So I'm already sold on the game. I don't need to watch the entire 40 minutes. I already know I want this. And I trust CD Projekt. Now, one thing I do want to touch on is because I know there's a lot of talk about it being first person, and I mean, they explain why they want it to be fully immersive. You know, they want you to be fully immersed in the world, and I can understand that. You know, I mean, we know them for making third-person games with The Witcher, but I think for this style of game, first person really does suit it because I mean, it's more of a technical sci-fi hacker type of game. And if you're hacking, you probably want to be close up to some of the stuff you're interacting with in the game. Like you want to have a full view of everything. Like let's say, for example, you have to hack a device or something, you know, or you have to hack a keypad or an access portal or something to get into a room. You want that viewpoint. Like you want to be able to fully see the thing so that you can, you know, do what you need to do to hack into it, for example. You know, like you have to kind of have that field of view, I think, for this kind of game. Now, a lot of people were saying, oh, but you can create a cool looking character, but you can't even see them. And I understand that, you know, like some people like to put a lot of detail into their created characters and stuff. And it's a shame that you can't always see them unless like there's a mirror or a cutscene or something. But I mean, at least there is the cutscene, you know, so you are going to be able to see them at some point. But I think this is best for this game. And if you look at games like Deus Ex, you know, that's a similar kind of style game where you're hacking things, and it's kind of that cyberpunk setting as well. It works for that game, you know, and I can understand why that game takes that point of view. And people were saying also, like, why can't you switch like in Bethesda games? To be honest with you, in games like Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, the third person view isn't that great, to be honest. Like, I mean, it's pretty standard. Like if you just want to pop out, like if you're in the first person and you want to pop out just to get a better look of things around you and see what your character's wearing and stuff, that's cool. But to play the entire game, like a Fallout or an Elder Scrolls, to play the entire game in third person, it's actually really hard, especially when you're in combat. Like it's not easy to do. And it's just easier and a lot more smoother to do in first person. So I can understand why they went with that viewpoint. I mean, they did great things with The Witcher, but that's a fantasy game. You know, it's different. This is Cyberpunk, and it's a different game, and they did what's best for this game. You know, and I trust them with that. So I don't have a problem with it being first person. And to be honest with you, the way the game is looking, I feel like this is going to be one of the most immersive kind of story experiences since, you know, Mass Effect. Like you remember that feeling you had when you played Mass Effect for the first time? You were just completely immersed, like right away. You were like, wow, I'm fully in control of this character, like, and this narrative right now. Like, I think you're gonna get that feel from this game. And that's what I'm excited for. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
I would say that those some great thoughts overall. One thing I did want to say about this game is that I do know that there were a lot of people that were concerned about the first person view. When Max and I saw this at E3, we absolutely were blown away. So I wasn't really concerned about that. They did have a sequence also where you're driving, which was cool. I didn't have any issues with the actual gameplay reveal. I think the main thing is that I was a little surprised that they went on ahead and they showed it, because as we've seen in the past with The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, we went to E3 one time and we saw behind closed door footage of the game, and then they didn't reveal that footage until maybe a year later for everyone to see. So to know that they would just straight up reveal that, this is right after Gamescom, I believe. I was like, well, wow, why didn't they wait why didn't they just wait to release this at a later time? So I'm curious about that. But the game overall looks fantastic. I also like the setting. I received a lot of texts after the video came out, people telling me, man, this game looks awesome. Yeah, it looks fantastic. So looking forward to learning more about it. Now, the question I have, though, we have to address this because they've made it very clear. When they released the footage, there was a disclaimer that said that this is how the game looks in its current state, but it can change later. And as we've already mentioned, people are comparing Spider-Man, how the footage looked before to how it looks now based on the images, so on and so forth. So I wanted to ask the question, even though CD Projekt Red has come out and said, this is how the game looks now, it may change, do you believe that if the game goes through any changes, that people are going to now come out and say, well, this has also been downgraded?
Probably. I mean, judging how ignorant people act, I think there are going to be complaints. And I truly do think that there is going to be some optimization needed to put this game on the PS4 and the Xbox. Like, they're going to have to optimize it to some level. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make huge changes or they're going to significantly downgrade the graphics. That's not what I'm saying. But they are going to make optimizations so that it runs, because performance is the most important thing, like I was saying. Like, we already know the game is graphically amazing, but performance is the key thing. So they're going to have to optimize it so that the performance on each console is at its best. And to get that performance just right, you're going to have to maybe, turn down just certain textures, just small textures, like just basically downgrading them to maybe a couple megabytes or something, like it's just small tweaks, basically. Like, I don't think they're going to have to significantly change it, but just small tweaks just to make the performance better. Now, once again, I do want to say that if you want to experience this game at its best, get yourself a gaming PC, get yourself one of the new NVIDIA models, since you guys complaining about graphics, you must be rich, because you can afford to argue on the internet all day. So I would suggest you get the latest NVIDIA graphics card, which is going to cost you $1,000, and, get yourself a 4K TV. And then buy the game and play it that way. And then you'll be playing it at its full, full spec, how, its full maximum potential. And then you won't have anything else to complain about. And you'll live a happy life. And you'll live till you're 100, 103 or something. So that's what I would advise all those people who are going to complain to do. If you are going to complain, just go ahead and do that, But for us gamers who are, more understanding and more willing to compromise and everything like that, the game already looks amazing, so I'm not going to complain. Like, I'm going to get it and I'm going to play it on whatever graphics card I happen to have. Either I might have a 1070 or a 1080 at that time, so, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to enjoy the game. So there you go.
Yeah, and I have to wonder to myself, and we have to clarify this just so everybody knows, No, NVIDIA did not pay you to say any of that information. So let's make that very clear. You know, this is the Koalition. This is an independent, you know, website thing here. So we ain't getting money like that.
Yeah, NVIDIA, call me though.
Absolutely. One other quick thing I did want to add too is that this game may not even be coming out this generation. You know, I mean, it's very likely that this game will come out at the start of next generation, which is maybe going to be within the next 2 years. I mean, the fact that CD Projekt Red would show this footage, though, it makes me very curious as to why they would show this footage when clearly it says that this could change later. So I'm very curious to see when we get a release date. I personally am not expecting this game to come out maybe until 2020 or 2021 at the absolute latest. I definitely don't see it coming out next year, but hey, well, actually, we did speak in the past? Didn't they have a game coming out in 2019 and 2020? Correct? You spoke about this.
Yeah. I think it's coming out next year because, and I say that because I saw an article. I can't remember if it was this week or last week, but I saw an article that said there is a version of Cyberpunk 2077 that you can play it completely from start to finish at the CD Projekt office right now. Like,
okay,
you can play it in full, like the entire game. So I think it's coming out next year. Like if they're that far ahead.
Okay.
So my guess is they're probably just beta, like they're probably bug testing the game at this point. And I think it's ready to go next year. So I'm gonna say 2019.
Interesting. Okay. Hey, if that's the case, I'm looking forward to it. You know, just make sure it comes out at a time where they're gonna have any other competition. Pretty much later next year is a great time because the early start of 2019 there's a lot of stuff coming out that we know February and March. But yeah, that sounds great. If that's the case, that sounds fantastic. I can't wait to learn more about it. So maybe E3 2019 we'll get we'll go to another presentation and we'll get copies of the game like we did with Witcher 3.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna have to go to E3. I definitely got to pull up next year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll see. So any other thoughts on Cyberpunk 2077 or any other topics before we wrap up today's show?
That's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So that concludes our show for today. Just a couple of quick notes. As I've already mentioned, you know, I will have my Spider-Man review on the website Tuesday, September 4th. So stay tuned for that. We also have a lot of other things that are in the works. Can't really talk too much about it. I will talk a lot about the other game that I'm playing next week, though, because I should be able to say something on that by that time. But thank you all for watching. I want to give a shout out to all the Patreon supporters, as well as those that are watching live or listening to the show later. We appreciate your continued support. Want to give a shout out to everybody on staff, Mr. Jake James Lugo, Max Muller, Tatiana, Dana. Give a shout out to all of them. They do have stuff they're working on, so make sure you stay tuned for that because it is going to be on the site. A lot of stuff starting next week. And Gary, the floor is now yours for shout outs.
Yep. So I want to give a big shout to our Patreon supporters. That's M. Collins, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdale, Fergus Mills, Miguel, and Antonio Rogers. We thank you very much for your support, and we are working on, you know, some extra stuff to put up on the Patreon, hopefully soon. And, you know, we just did a batch of giveaways, and there will be more giveaways in the future. So stay tuned for more information on that. And yeah, shouts to everyone else who listens to the show after we record and everything, everyone who joins us in the chat. And shouts to everyone on the staff, you know, Tatiana, Dana, JJ, you know, Max, Tony, and the entire Throwdown crew as well. You know, big shouts to everyone associated with the Koalition. So
absolutely.
Pretty much it.
Yes. Oh yeah, and let me do one final shout out. I got to give. I want to give a very special shout out to 2K because I understand that they had a launch event this past week for NBA 2K19, and nobody got the game at the launch event. So maybe they need to rethink what the point of having a launch event is if you're not going to give out a game. But I had to give them a shout out because I thought that was absolutely ludicrous.
Oh, wow.
But it is what it is. Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's wild. But yeah, we gotta have a conversation about that off air. But yeah, so that's pretty much it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to you all next week. Have a good weekend.
See ya.